Y'all's jaws are about to hit the floor. What I'm about to show you is the final culmination, the last piece I needed to tie all the gun control of the last 4 to 5 years together in one nefarious action. Everything that we're about to cover is going to be linked in the description box below. I bring the receipts. I encourage you to look at them. But we're going to go through the dark pools of money and individuals that are actually going after gun rights using all the following: George Soros, Open Societies Foundation, Brady United Against Gun Violence, Everytown for Gun Safety, Mexico, and FFL holders. Guys, this one's crazy. And make sure you send this out everywhere, because the only way we beat this stuff is by doing two things. One, exposing it to sunlight and letting big accounts see it and decide if they want to cover it. And the second one is hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because literally you are the lifeblood of this channel. And make sure you guys are doing that so we can keep on fighting for our rights every single day, day in, day out. And keep in mind, every time that you do, you have the opportunity to make a gun controller stub their toe in the middle of the night, groggy, sleepy, boom, big toe, furniture, all day, every day, simply when you hit that subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Oh my God, the power's in your hands. All right, people, listen. We're going to dive into this a little bit on my X profile. This is at Braden LOA. Everything that I'm about to show you ties it all together. And I'm going to dive into it in 1 second after I show you something you guys need to look into for your information consumption. All right, this is ground.news. Okay, you can go ground.news/Langley. It's in the description box below, but this is a site that shows you who is making the news you're consuming, who is paid for, what's the bias. Guys, you can see the coverage details in the top right there. You can see it was updated 29 minutes ago. The bias distribution on this story is left 52% of the time, okay? The reason that's important is look at the story. Chargers linebacker Denzel Perryman is released from jail and won't face criminal charges. Now, why do you think the left would be more interested in that story than the right? Exactly. It's the underlying reasons of why people behave the way they do. It's so crazy. Shows you the factuality and the ownership, and gives you a blind spot to see what the other side is covering so you can get in front of them and outmaneuver them. Guys, link in the description, 40% off the Vantage plan. Make sure you check it out. Let's get into the story here. All right, so last night, let me go ahead and turn my notifications off so that doesn't happen again. So last night, I showed you a video that was extremely disturbing of an animated dead school shooting victim with Jim Acosta interviewing him like he's alive, right? The entire point was to pull on the emotional heartstrings using technology to reanimate a dead kid to push gun control. And Jim Acosta played along, even though he looks like Rosie O'Donnell right there. All right, so in that, and you guys can check the video, it's last night's, someone sent me a little snippet underneath, and this is why the X is so powerful, at Braden LOA, all right? Non-Fud's Ghost said his dad, Manny Oliver, that's the guy who's the father of the kid who was reanimated, also is on the board of a gun control group that has an office in their own FFL. Now, I found that fascinating, right? So as we continue to go through this, look at all the pieces that fall into place. That's why this is so powerful, okay? Full hat tip to Mom and Arms. That's where the article was cited, and I've done more research on it. Everything is linked. I always bring the receipts. This whole article is about a gun control group that's suing the United States, and they have an FFL. That's not the story here, but here's what they said. It's been known for some time that Joshua Sugarman, the executive director of the gun control group, the Violence Policy Center, has an FFL that has been active for years, and AMOLAND also reported on it. Well, as I go into this, it weaved all the pieces of this story together. The Mexico lawsuit, the actors involved, the dark money, the George Soros connection, open societies, all of it, right? It's not about them having an FFL. Here's what they cite the reason for. This is from an AMOLAND article, and I'm connecting all the dots as we build this. Firearms expert in design and manufacture for the purposes of examination and publication of written materials concerning various firearm products. They're going to write hit pieces off of guns they get. Also necessary for activities conducted by license holder on behalf of the Violence Policy Center, of which licensee is executive director. That's the gun control group. Such activities include ability to ship and receive firearms and firearm parts for examination and research in conjunction with expert witness testimony and other research and writing. No firearms or ammunition will be sold. That's the whole thing, okay? This is not about them selling guns. It's about the connections that are exposed through this group. Look, watch this, okay? Here's some of the players. Now, Jonathan Lowy, That name should sound familiar to you because Jonathan Langley is the guy who ran the Mexican lawsuit. The $10 billion against the gun manufacturers that was just thrown out by the Supreme Court a couple months ago. He's the guy that ran it. I'm going to show you everything you need to see on this. Listen to this. Jonathan Langley has been bringing, litigating, and winning and trailblazing impactful lawsuits and advocating for gun violence prevention for 25 years. He has litigated in trial and appellate courts for over 40 years, helped win over $100 million in verdicts and settlements for victims of gun violence, created groundbreaking precedent that holds gun companies accountable for the contribution to gun violence, reformed dangerous gun industry practices, and shut down reckless gun dealers. He won the first appellate decision holding that the U.S. gun industry protection law is unconstitutional. That's the PLCAA. Again, button up. I'm about to connect it all. And the first settlement in which a gun manufacturer paid for a criminal shooting. So this is the whole point. This guy, Jonathan Langley, founded Global Action on Gun Violence. Global Action on Gun Violence is the organization that was involved in the Mexico lawsuit, $10 billion to break all of the gun companies in the United States because they tried to circumvent the PLCAA. The PLCAA is what they're talking about right here. He won the first appellate decision holding that the U.S. gun industry protection law is unconstitutional. That's the point. That's why he's the point guy, because he went after the PLCAA, the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. Now, remember this name, Global Action on Gun Violence, okay? Our supporters for Global Action on Gun Violence, they play a critical role in fulfilling our mission to reduce the global harm from guns by using litigation and human rights strategies to reform dangerous gun industry practices. Look at the names I have highlighted. Everytown for Gun Safety, Open Society Foundations. That last one is George frickin' Soros, the same guy who's paid for the anti-justice DAs, the progressive DAs across the nation that led to everyone being non-arrested. That's George Soros, Open Society Foundation. He's funding the left. Everytown for Gun Safety? Yeah. Yeah, the same ones. Now, let me show you something else on the global team. Remember that video that I showed you at the very beginning that was so gross with the AI animated kid? Yeah, if I go back to the teams, if I scroll down, would you look at that? Manuel Oliver. That looks like this guy being arrested for disrupting Congress. Same guy, right there. Manuel Oliver is the father of Joaquin Oliver, who was killed with an assault weapon in the mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14th, 2018. Manny immigrated from Parkland to Venezuela and has dedicated himself to giving a voice to his son with bold activism, creative campaigns, art, and global outreach. Now, keep in mind, remember that group that I told you about last night in that disgusting video? He and his wife, Patricia Oliver, founded a nonprofit advocacy group, Change the Ref, that empowers young people to speak out against gun violence. That's the group that did the video around a child cancer patient getting shot in school. That's the same organization. The same organization that animated their dead son for a fake interview with Jim Acosta. All of this is tied together. Okay? Now, let me show you the rest of this. Jonathan Langley, this is Everytown Law. This is from Everytown for Gun Safety's website. Jonathan Langley, Special Litigation Advisor to Everytown Law, also serves as president of Global Action on Gun Violence, which he founded in 2022. 2022, remember that number. Global Action on Gun Violence is not affiliated with Everytown. He formerly served as chief counsel at Brady, Gun Control Group, Everytown. But he's not affiliated with Everytown, except for that one little part where the company that he founded has their supporters, Everytown for Gun Safety, under philanthropic partners. That means they get money. So this little lie that they just put forward, Everytown is not affiliated with them, lie. All right. Remember that number 2022? I'm just going to keep on going, just blowing this whole thing apart. The government of Mexico files a second lawsuit to combat illicit arms trafficking. This is the Secretary of Exterior Relations right there on the 10th of October, 2022. Okay? The government of Mexico today filed a new lawsuit in the U.S. District Court in Tucson, Arizona against 5 Arizona gun dealers. The lead lawyers for the Mexican government's legal strategy are Steve Shadowin of Shadowin PLLC in Austin, Texas, and Jonathan Langley of Global Action on Gun Violence in D.C. So now Jonathan Langley is tied to Mexico. He's tied to Everytown for Gun Safety through this right here. He's tied to George Soros, Open Societies Foundation, and you remember that that time frame of when he started, according to Everytown for Gun Safety, 2022? Well, would you look at that? October 10th, 2022, Mexico filed their lawsuit. He's running the Mexican lawsuit of $10 billion to destroy the gun manufacturers in an attempt to circumvent the PLCAA after he was chief counsel at Brady Gun Control Group. Oh, and also, by the way, same organization that did this little nougat. Where'd it go? Here we go. This lawsuit right here that was filed by this guy right here, Manuel, the father of the kid who was reanimated. They were actually filing and saying that the Second Amendment was a violation of human rights in the United States. One more thing for you. This is a quote from Jonathan Langley. "It is far easier and far more efficient to stop the crime gun pipeline at its source and turn off the spigot," said Jonathan Langley, president on Global Action on Gun Violence and longtime litigator against the gun industry who has worked this case on behalf of the Mexican government. Everything that I just showed you is all sourced. Everything. From the idea that they are tying together with the individual groups Change the Ref, which are disgusting videos around childhood cancer and then being shot in schools after they're in remission, which is just disgusting. Animating dead children to talk and robocall Congress, and then they're suing to say that the Second Amendment is against the human rights, even though it's our rights in the Constitution. He led the Mexican lawsuit for $10 billion. In the same year they founded it, the same year they got Mexico to do this, and at the end of the day, you have the entire thing saying that it's all about cutting the guns off at the spigot. I just showed you in 12 minutes all the disgusting nature of these people. George Soros is behind this. Everytown is behind this. Jonathan Langley is behind this. The people who are involved in these disgusting videos are behind this. All of it is tied back to the unifying principle of gun control and taking the rights away from an entire population. That's what I've got for you guys. I hope I landed this plane. I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.